Okay, today I am joined by Jason from the amazing channel 161 River Ave, one of the
Yes,
best channels out there for all baseball content, specifically Yankees content. I mean, if you want to stay updated on just everything happening in baseball, no better channel. So thank you so much for coming on here.
I appreciate you having me on, and thanks for the kind words. And I'm happy to be on here with you. So let's rock and roll, man.
Yep. So we're gonna be talking about the Yankees off season and was it good enough? Can they beat Houston? Just talking about the Yankees. So first, a quick recap of the off season, mainly just the active roster moves. They've signed a ton of players to minor league deals, but we would be here for a couple hours if we went over all those.
Oh yeah,
And the
that's
Yankees,
cash
Yankees,
from
didn't-
demo right there.
yeah, exactly. Yankees didn't have too many moves affecting the active roster. Obviously, they bring back Judge, massive deal, 9 years, 360 million. They bring back Rizzo, 2 years, 40 million. Then they bring in Carlos Rodon, great signing, 6 years, 162 million. Then Tommy Canley, 2 years, 11.5 million. Am I missing anything there?
No, I mean those are the impact moves. I mean, like you said, they brought in a bunch of guys on minor league deals with invites to spring training. I mean, they left. It looks like as of now they left the left field competition open. And but that could change, right? Depending on what they see in spring training. There's still a guy or two available potentially. So, but those were the impact moves. They kind of remind me of the White Sox. The White Sox only made a couple of moves, but they're all impact moves.
Hmm.
So he's kind of did the same rather than making like 20 moves and whatnot. So they addressed the needs that they had. And there's only one to go really. It's left field. So they figure that out.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I have written down here. The rotation is really good now. Even though you have a bunch of injuries that you got to be concerned about, getting Rodon, that is just massive. You have one of the best 1-2 punches in the game. Like getting back Rizzo, you needed that first baseman. Then Tommy Canley, Yankees, I just trust whatever they do with the bullpen. They could sign a player who's never pitched, never thrown a baseball before, put him in the bullpen, and I would trust them because they know everything about the bullpen there.
I do
But
think that.
left field, that's a big disappointment of the offseason. You let Andrew Benintendi go, but left field's gonna be an interesting spot for the Yankees because you have Aaron Hicks, who he can't be getting at bats in the postseason if the Yankees are serious. Stanton can't play the field, and then you have Oswaldo Cabrera, the prospect, who's an infielder who was just playing out in the outfield last year because of injuries and stuff. So, what do you think about that?
Kind of split in half. Like, pitching wise, the question of the day is that a lot of folks ask is, are they closer to Houston, right? Pitching wise, I think they are with the acquisition of Carlos Rodon and bringing back Tommy Canley. I think they're right. 1 through 4 is a massive upgrade for the Yankees than it was last year. And getting Rodon up there, getting another ace, really, really makes them better. It makes them it reminds us of Houston, their pitching rotation when they had Verlander. So, and the addition of Canley, who's, if you look at his career stats, his lowest ERA is in the ninth inning. So there's another guy that you have that can close, whether it be him, Johnny Loizaga, Michael King, Clay Holmes. So they have a lot of guys that can occupy those last couple innings. So I think with the pitching additions, they've closed the gap to Houston. Now, when we switch to offense, I still think left field needs to be an upgrade. And you have to find somebody that's better than Hicks and better than Oswaldo Cabrera. There's good looking players, so on and so forth. I'm excited with the prospects of Oswaldo Cabrera, and just like I'm excited about Oswald Peraza and some of the other folks, but they did not close the gap offensively with Houston, unfortunately, and
Mm.
their offense is what shut them down in the postseason. That's where they struggled the most, and good pitching that Houston has neutralized their hitting. So I would have liked to have seen another move there, but I am of the opinion that they're not officially done yet. So I'm still holding out, hope and I think the thought process that they're going to do something. We just don't know what. There's so many different, things being said out there. We just don't know what to believe. But Cashman never leaks any information, so I'm confident that he'll make something, some kind of move to upgrade in left field.
Yeah, I mean, as you just said, we still have a long way to go until
Mhm.
opening day. and Cashman plays his cards very close to his chest.
Oh yeah.
So we don't quite know what they're gonna do there. But I agree, you have to figure out a solution to left field. Because
Yeah.
left field and third base are the two glaring holes on the team. Third base, I'm less concerned about because you have a ton of internal options.
Mhm.
You know, LeMahieu should be healthy next year. You have Volpe. You have Peraza. I mean, you have a ton of infielders who could play third base. You still have Donaldson on the team. You know,
Mhm.
so maybe he bounces back, but I doubt it. Whereas in left field, there's not many options. And I agree, the Yankees just have to do something about left field. Otherwise, they're not really comparable to Houston in my mind.
And to your point too, which is a good point, I think whoever they get for left field also needs to be their leadoff hitter. They do not have a prototypical leadoff hitter right now. So, which is why Brian Reynolds keeps sticking out to me from the Pirates. It is, he did reiterate his desire to be traded a couple days ago. So, I think Cashman might be hiding in the weeds here. Maybe. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if it does, then they have the prototypical leadoff hitter, and then you have plug DJ at second, at least in my opinion, and then you'd have Judge, Rizzo fourth, Stanton fifth. I would do Bader at sixth, Oswaldo Cabrera at seventh, Perez at eighth, Trevino ninth, or something like that. That to me is a more balanced lineup. But the reason why I want a leadoff hitter at the top is the kind of the speed factor. And like a guy like Jurickson Profile or Brian Reynolds, they have the speed that DJ does not have. And this is how I equate it. Let's just say they get on base with a walk or a single, and they're on first base, and then DJ hits a double. Well, that guy's going to score, right? If DJ's leading off and he's on first base and somebody hits a double, DJ's going to be stuck at third. That's the difference between scoring a run and not scoring a run. And with the pitching the way that it is, that could be the difference in a lot of games. So I want a guy at the top who's going to be more prototypical base runner and stuff like that. Somebody who can extend base hits. And right now, we do not currently have that guy. And Harrison Bader to me is the best leadoff option they have right now. But I'd rather have him in the middle of the lineup and somebody like a Reynolds at the top who's also a switch hitter. So with good contact skills, as is Jurickson Profar. So those to me are the two best options in my opinion at the top. DJ's perfect in this lineup at batting second. What's your thoughts on that?
From the more I view it as a more from the more analytical approach. I mean, LeMahieu had the second highest on base percentage on the team.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have speed though, so he's good to have leading off in my mind just because he gets on base. Then Judge and Stanton, Rizzo, I mean, they can all hit home runs. But having a balanced player, I think that's so important for left field. You have to have a good overall player there. You can't have someone who's home run or bust, or who just does it with the glove and can't hit. I mean, you
Right.
need a balanced player there. That way, if LeMahieu gets hurt, or if he's just out of the lineup for a day, you have a good overall player you can put near the top of the order that can get on base, get some extra base hits, steal some bags if needed. I mean, you need a good balanced player. And Brian Reynolds, he would be great there. It would cost a lot of prospects.
Mm-hmm.
It feels to me as if the Yankees are just that one type of move away
I
where
do
they
too.
go out, do that trade, get the left fielder. Then all of a sudden you're saying, okay, there's not, third base is the only remaining hole. We can fix that midway through the season.
Yep.
So I agree. Yankees have to address left field before the season starts.
And to compliment that point you just made too at left field, who do they have as Esteban Florial? But he's shown to struggle hitting major league pitching. So what we have internally right now, behind Esteban Florial, they have better potential, but they're still a year or two away. So we don't have anybody who can come up immediately and plug in that spot, right? So when the Yankees were at their best, they had great backup players, guys that could just come in and produce, whether they played once a week or once every 2 weeks. We don't currently have that really. So which is why I think the backup player, who they put on the bench, is going to be very important. And so if you have a guy like Reynolds or a guy like Profar, then you can have Oswaldo Cabrera kind of floating around the positions and doing other things as well. It frees up some areas for them to continue to develop Anthony Volpe, not have to rush him and stuff, and also have a consistent player at the top. One of the Yankees' struggles last year was consistent lineups, and I know it's mainly because of injury. So I get that. So thankfully the players are healthy, but someone at the top, kind of a consistent 1 through 5, I think would be really helpful. So hopefully Cashman will be able to fill that and get that job done at some point soon.
Yeah, I agree. Depth is such an important part to any good team. Because
Hmm.
last year, I mean, Marwin Gonzalez, he was playing a ton. He wasn't good depth. And good teams have guys who you can fall back on. You can say, we have unexpected injuries. Let's have this guy plug in and play.
You betcha.
Good depth just makes everything that much easier. And the Yankees have good depth in the infield, but again, as you said, the outfield, it's a lot of question marks there. It's guys who are 2 years away, people who we've seen in the majors like Florial, but haven't been able to adapt. So
Yeah,
getting good depth is another big part there.
yeah. Could agree more. Could not agree more.
Yep.
I hope he's able to do it. I really do. I really do.
Yeah. And then let's talk about the shortstop battle for the Yankees,
Mm.
as this is one of the biggest storylines I'm going to be watching in spring training. I mean, you have three shortstops on the team: IKF, Volpe, who's not on the 40-man roster, but he's in spring training, and then Peraza. So, and what are you going to be watching for in the shortstop battle? What do you think the Yankees might do?
Personally, I think Peraza is going to win the shortstop job, starting job. I think Volpe's probably not going to be up until, unless he's really outplays everybody in spring training. I see him coming up in maybe June or something like that, giving him a little bit more time because he only had a handful of games at AAA. So I think he wants to refine a few things first before coming up. But again, he could surprise everybody. But if he's continuing to develop, what it does is, I mean, it also gives them room to move Gleyber Torres if they want to do that. And I've said this before, the only way I'm trading Gleyber Torres is for an impact player in return. It's got to be whether it be starting pitcher or a good reliever, something like that, or as part of a Brian Reynolds trade or something like that. I'm not just trading him to move salary. That's not. I don't think that's a wise thing. He's one of their top 5 hitters. So, and with that said, doing that, if you move Gleyber Torres, then it gives makes room for Volpe at second, and I do think he's better suited at second. Peraza has an elite arm; he's graded in the 60s, between 60 and 70. Volpe's rated like on just under 50 in terms of arm strength from shortstop. So I want the guy with the better arm at shortstop, and the guy with the higher upside at second base. And to me, if we can get Volpe at second and Peraza at short for the next decade, we are going to be in good shape. I think that excites me, and I think IKF, this will be his final year here unless they move him as well. He can float around the infield and play multiple positions and whatnot. I think he would be the other guy on the bench right now with Oswaldo Cabrera, the backup catcher, and then whoever the fourth guy might be. But they'll still get plenty of playing time. But I think Peraza is going to win the shortstop job. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Peraza, we saw him play last year. He looked good. He's known for his good defense.
Yeah,
Volpe, he was good last year in the minors, but he got off to a bad start. He had bad stretches in between. Like you would see the talent was there, but the overall numbers were down. And he only got promoted to AAA at the end of the season.
yeah,
So could he win the shortstop battle in spring training?
sure.
Maybe. But I think Peraza has the leg up. And frankly, I'm excited to see what Peraza can do in a full season.
As a my
Yeah. And Volpe, you give him a couple months in the minors, he figures everything out. Maybe you give him more reps at second base, so he's ready to just go straight to the Yankees and play second base. And stuff can work out there really well.
absolutely.
So I
You
think Peraza should win that job. I think that he likely will. I'm
mm-hmm.
hoping the Yankees don't give it to IKF.
Yeah, I don't think they will. I think he's going to have to outperform the heck out of Oswald Peraza. I think Oswald Peraza, they've kind of brought him up gradually and slowly. I think they'd be wise to do the same thing with Volpe and not throw him to the wolves right away. Let him develop a little bit more. Peraza has shown he can handle the majors. He's shown he can handle the pitching, and defensively, he's shown what he can do. So that to me gives him an edge. And IKF is playing out of position all season at shortstop. So I mean, we've seen laterally he does some great defense. Right at him, not so great. And we need somebody who can be better than that. And that Peraza fits that mold. So I think he's going to win the job starting shortstop, and I think he should. I think he should.
Um,
Hmm. Oh
yeah, so the Yankees rotation, it's really good with the first four pitchers.
yeah,
And then there's the question of the number five. I
yeah,
mean, you have three main options in my mind. Domingo Herman, Clark Schmidt, and then a pitcher, Matt Crook, who people are probably not very familiar with.
Mhm.
He's one of the Yankees' left-handed pitching prospects. But just what do you think about who can be the fifth starter for the Yankees?
I think, well, Schmidt I think has an edge over Herman, but I think Crook can beat either one of these guys out in spring training if he shows the ability to do that. He's the only Yankees pitching prospect right now that has thrown over 100 innings last year that wasn't traded. So he's the only guy that can kind of fit easily in the as a starting pitcher. So and he's shown the ability to get guys out from the left-handed side. He's got a good arsenal, as does Clark Schmidt. So and I do think whoever gets beat out is going to go right into the bullpen as a long reliever. Which, but I could see Domingo Herman being the odd man out, and I could see Crook getting the fifth spot, and then Schmidt going to relief, or the other way around. They're both young pitchers, and they bring a lot to the table. I think Schmidt finally got a chance last year. He was showed to be pretty solid, and starting especially when he's starting as opposed to relieving. So that would be an adjustment for him as well. But Crook has shown, and I talked about him recently on my channel too. He's shown the ability to get guys out. So the Yankees have a lot of big arms, but they're way down the system right now. Like a rookie ball, low A, and they don't have anybody double A and triple A. So Crook has the most legitimate shot, I think, of all the prospects to make it as a fifth man.
Yeah, personally, I think the Yankees are going to have Matt Crook in the bullpen because the Yankees have one lefty in the bullpen right
True.
now, and that's Wendy Peralta. You're going to need more than that. And I was looking at Crook's stats last year in the minors. He pitched at AAA, which is the highest level, and right-handed batters had an 831 OPS against him. Left-handed batters had a 499 OPS against. So he could be a really devastating lefty long relief pitcher in the pen. I think that's what the Yankees will probably do with him, even though he could win that starting spot. So he
Good.
does have good strikeout stuff. But I think Schmidt and Herman are the main two there. I would rather have Schmidt.
Yeah, I think I would take Schmidt over Herman as well. You can even use Herman in the trade if if you can package him with other folks. If they somehow get Brian Reynolds, I would probably add him in that if they wanted him. There's another guy named Nick Ramirez right now. I just mentioned, and he's a lefty reliever who's a big guy, but he's also developed a slider. Which, if you're a big guy, come from the left-handed side, you're going to be torture on right-handed hitters and lefties. So he's a guy I would keep an eye out for as well, aside from Crook. And he's a little older. He's 33. He's played with the Padres and the Tigers, but he's in spring training right now, and they're talking about him quietly but pretty frequently about a guy who can make it a long way or potentially even make the team. So, and he might be the relief option, and he's from the left-handed side. So, and I agree with you. Another left-handed reliever would be a wise idea. So, I mean, Crook could get the fifth spot, and this kid Ramirez could get the relief spot. So we just don't know. But it's good to have all these options in spring training, more guys to compete against each other. So I'm excited with the depth that the Yankees have brought in on minor league deals to compete with each other in spring training. It's been a while since they've done this many guys, so I'm excited at the possibilities of who might come out of this. I am.
Yeah. And in when was it? 2 years ago when Lucas Litke was
Licky.
yeah, I mean, who knew who he was? Then
Yeah.
he wins the job in spring training, goes on to have a great 2 years with the Yankees. Then they're able to trade him for two prospects.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm always interested in spring training pitchers because it's guys who the public eye hasn't seen in a long time. And I'm just always excited for spring training pitchers there. I think that we're gonna have some players who we don't really know right now who could break out in spring training and get a spot in the bullpen for the Yankees there. So
That's when
very
I know.
interested in that.
That's when I noticed Oswaldo Cabrera last year in spring training. I was like, who is this guy? He was hitting home runs from left-handed side and right-hand side, and he stood out to me. And everybody was talking about Volpe and Peraza. He stood out to me. So that's when I noticed him last year. And there's another guy named Jimmy Cordero. He's a ground ball pitcher, slider guy. I would look into him as well. He might be a guy that could make it too. So, but yeah, well, I'm excited like you are too at the pitchers. And again, people need to. I think it's important to remember that they're going to be trimming down the roster as other teams do as well. And sometimes that causes teams to trade. So they might find a gem somewhere in a trade. They might find a gem, from a guy that gets cut and they pick up. You never know. It happens every year in spring training. So there's a lot of different. The roster will look a lot different in the spring training than it will in the beginning of spring training. So
Without a
it's
doubt.
exciting very excited to follow it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what are some bounce back players for the Yankees next year? Guys who just had down seasons last year and you think they're gonna turn it back around.
DJ's one. I think he's the most important one. I think he's a table setter, right? He's the kind of the engine. If when he's going, the team kind of follows. So he's the guy I'm looking for first for a healthy season, obviously, and to pick his stats back up a little bit, just be more consistent lineup presence. I think he's the top guy. Behind him, obviously a healthy season from Harrison Bader, I think would be a good thing because we didn't have healthy either one of these guys last season. So I think those two are going to be a good addition and a healthy season from backup catcher Ben Rortvedt. He's another guy I'm curious about. So because he's got the same catching abilities, he's a master pitch frame just like Jose Trevino is, but he bats from the left-handed side. So you could have two elite defenders behind the plate. Not that I don't like Higashioka, but Ben Rortvedt, he's the other guy I'm trade. He was part of that trade with the Twins. So I'm curious to see what he can do. So those are my three. Offensive one, obviously a healthy season for Michael King is the most important for me in the bullpen too. I need him to be healthy. Those are my bounce back. Who are you guys?
So in I have two of the more high profile players on the team, Stanton and Cole.
Yeah.
And Cole, he had a 3.5 ERA last year. I just don't see that happening again. It was just a couple of games where the long ball ruined him. And I think he's gonna be able to get that under control a little bit. I don't think we're gonna have another 3.5 ERA season. And then Giancarlo Stanton, he had a bad year. He had a 759 OPS. And this is someone who, for his career, has an 890 OPS. So I think Stanton, he's going to rebound from that OPS there. I think that we're going to see a better season out of those two. And those are two big players on the team who are getting a lot of money. So hoping they rebound. Otherwise, those contracts could look really bad.
I think the addition of Carlos Rodon is going to help Cole. When Cole was in Houston, him and Verlander fed off each other. They made each other better, right? So I think the same thing's going to happen with New York in New York too. And the 350, you're right, because like he would throw 7 shutout innings and then give up a 3-run home run in the 7th inning, and it was just like, ah, and so many times it looks so much worse when that happens when the Yankees are losing, as opposed to when they're winning. So it's more tolerable when they're winning, right? But nevertheless, a 350 as a bad year from him, I'll take that because he also had 257 strikeouts. It was like 13-8 or something like that. So all in all, it wasn't an ace level year, but it was pretty good. But you're right about the ERA. I do think that's going to come down, and I think it'll just be a little bit more balanced attack this year. I think Rodon's going to help push him, and vice versa. And Stanton's another guy. Like his stats could be ugly, but he puts up 30 home runs every year, even in 110 games. So I'd like to see that. He's got almost 400 home runs. So he could essentially, if he stays healthy, hit his 500th year with the Yankees because he has 5 more years left. So I'd love to see that. So I hope he stays healthy enough. But you're right too. The OPS is ugly, and again, I think it's also part of having batting out of place. So sometimes he was batting second, Judge batting leadoff. Like it was just all over the place with all these injuries. So if there's a consistent part in the lineup for these guys and they stay there, I think it'll be easier for them to plug into their spot in the lineup, providing everybody stays healthy. And I think he'll be more productive with his other stats across the board because he hits the ball hard. So, and as I love to hit singles and doubles too to complement the home runs. So, but those are two good candidates you pick right there for bounce backs. Good ones.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, what's your overall opinion on the offseason? I mean, like, disappointed? Happy with it? What do you think?
It's crazy. If I was going to give them a letter grade, which I don't, my first grade is an incomplete because I think left field is still to be done. So to me, it's an incomplete. But if I'm going to give them a letter grade, it's probably going to be a B minus. Bring back Judge help, bring back Rizzo help, adding Canely, was good. Adding Carlos Rodon was fantastic. So, but that said, the incomplete part of not addressing left field yet is part of the incomplete. And depending on what they do there, I could see that grade going up higher, middle B, high B, maybe even A. If they get a Brian Reynolds, to me, that's an A or an A minus. That's the guy, and I've talked about him for a year. I think he's the perfect fit here, this team. And he's young, and he's just the right fit, right type of player that they need. Jurickson Profar might happen, but they're going to have to move payroll for him, right, in free agency. So that's when they'd have to trade either IKF or Torres or something like that to do it, to make it possible. And those to me are the two guys that represent the upgrades over what we currently have. I can't think of anybody else that would represent an upgrade. Like Max Kepler's okay, but he's not the right fit here, at least for me. He can't run. So Nick Gordon from the Twins might be nice, but I keep going back to Brian Reynolds. I haven't abandoned that position for a year now. So I give him an incomplete until they address left field. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with that incomplete part of the grade. I
Mm.
mean, they can't run with the current left field situation on opening day. Cashman's smarter than that. He has to do something to address that. You know, with what they've currently done, I would give it a B because it's a lot of the same team last year, but that same team last year won 99 games. You have
Mm-hmm.
Rodon, which I just a great deal. I mean, 6 years, $162 million for such a great pitcher. I thought that was an absolute steal there.
Yeah.
But yeah, incomplete is a big part of that because there's holes to fix on the team.
Yep.
And if they can fix left field, this can easily be that A or A minus offseason you were talking about. But if they don't fix left field, then that B starts to feel like a B minus, C plus a little
Yeah.
bit. 'Cause it's just, are you going to be able to win a World Series with this team? You just got swept by Houston. You're
Yep.
running a lot of the same players back there. So that's kind of where I'm feeling right now. Like
Yeah.
I
Can
said,
we
incomplete. They need to do more if they want to beat Houston, even though
like
it's
can
not
we
a horrible offseason.
exactly? Can we win the 2-1 game, the 1-0 game? I don't know with the offense. I really don't. So, and that's where I think left field, and I'm confident the Cashman's going to do something. Just don't know what. I hope Reynolds to me is the right move to make, but I know he's going to cost a lot. And they're going to have to give up like a Jason Dominguez and some other folks. I know a lot of folks don't want that, but if you're a World Series now team, you're going to have to do that, unfortunately. So, and they have enough depth in the farm to make it happen. I just don't know if their appetite is there. But they tend to do better trading for position players than they do trading for starters. They've made that pretty obvious over the last couple of years. So, but you know, I'm still waiting on that move, and I do think if they do it, they'll be my favorites to go to the World Series over Houston with a move like that. So I'm still, and like, if you could think of one person, who would be your guy for left field?
Are we factoring in the amount of prospects it would need to get this
Yeah,
player? Or
sure,
just
absolutely, absolutely.
probably Ian Happ then? Just because he has one more year team control, gonna be a little bit cheaper than Reynolds then.
Well,
And I think that he has a very similar profile, maybe a little bit more offensive oriented, but still a switch hitter who's gonna play solid baseball all around. So Ian Happ and then Brian Reynolds a close second.
I mean, I wouldn't be disappointed with Ian Happ either. I mean, if they got him, I'd be happy. If they got Brian Reynolds, I'd be ecstatic. So, and that's just the way I kind of look at it. Some people think I'm nuts, but I'm not ruling out Cashman yet. I'm not I never thought of him. I never even heard of Clay Holmes before he traded for him, but he got Clay Holmes, and I remember when he traded for Clay Holmes, we were running around with our hair on fire. Like they gave up Hoy Park, but he got Clay Holmes, and now those are the types of trades he's genius at. I never heard of Jose Trevino before he traded for him. He got Trevino too, so he makes a lot of good trades like that, and I think he's got the ability to pull off another one. And honestly, I think he's waiting quietly to strike. I do feel that, but we'll see. Would it happen now or would it happen at the deadline? Is the other question, because I do think at some point he's going to have to do something. Even with the guys they brought in, like Willie Calhoun and Rafael Ortega on minor league deals, they have major league experience, it could work out, but none of those guys are Happer Reynolds. So, I mean, those are that's the names I'm hoping that he brings into the trade. I hope so.
Yeah, as you said, the trade deadline, that's
Yep,
going to be so much more important if the Yankees don't address left field going into the season.
betcha.
Because I think that they're going to make it to the playoffs, even if they keep the same roster they have right now. And they're still really, really good.
Mhm.
But at the trade deadline, if you haven't already gotten a left fielder, you're going to be desperate to get one then. So, what's Cashman going to do? We have no clue. I mean, he keeps his cards close to his chest.
Yep.
No one has any clue what Cashman's going to do. So,
And that's where the ninja comes out. Ninja Brian Cashman comes out of nowhere. We could wake up tomorrow morning and he made a trade for somewhere like, how, what? Because it's happened before so many times. So I wouldn't be surprised if he did that again. Would not be
yeah.
surprised. I'd be very pleasantly surprised. No. And I know he's hearing the frustration from fans and he hadn't done anything yet. And I totally get it. I totally get it. So I think he'll do something. I know, understand, like they've got the Cohen payroll threshold they don't want to exceed. So he'll have to make a corresponding move as well and stuff. So to clear payroll and all that stuff. So, but I think he'd have the moves in place to do it. Just kind of impatiently waiting for him to do it. So yeah,
Yep.
I hope
Gotta
so.
be
I
patient
hope so.
Yankee fans right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Where I mean, the Yankee fans, I mean, impatient, but for a good reason. They're passionate fans. They know their stuff about the team, right? They're very knowledgeable about baseball. So it's good having a conversation with them because you know where you stand right away, you know? And that's what Carlos Rodon said. One of the reasons he's like, he said today, actually, said the Giants fans are invested, but not like Yankee fans. They won't boo you in San Francisco like they boo you in New York. And that's the type of stuff he needs to hear. And that's the difference between New York and everywhere else. They let you know whether it's good or bad and they're invested in their team. They're invested in the sport. So that's what I think makes New York a special place. I really do. And anybody who comes here, not everybody can handle it, obviously, but I think people that come here realize that and they'll embrace it. The right guys. So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's always fun watching the Yankees play. All right, well,
Oh yeah.
thank you so much for doing this. Again, if you haven't subscribed to Jason's channel, then go over and subscribe. I'll link it in the description. Once again, thank you for coming on here and doing this.
Thanks so much for having me. It's always a pleasure, and let's do it again soon.
All right, thank you.
All right, bud. I'll talk to you soon.
Yep.